Hello, everyone, and thank you for checking out the Dancing Eyes podcast. This is episode 4, and my guest for this episode is Brandon. I just want to remind everybody before the episode starts that, well, actually, it's not a reminder, I haven't said it yet, but the new schedule for the podcast, new episodes, the first Monday and the third Monday of every month. Yes, so the first Monday and the third Monday of every month, and so this is going to be posted on the third Monday of December. Um, if if anybody ever wants to be on the podcast, if you're interested in talking to me, or if you have any questions or any pieces of advice, please feel free to reach out to me, comment on the video. Also, my email address is going to be in the description, so please do that. Yeah, also I made an Instagram for the podcast. It's just at Dancing Eyes Podcast on Instagram. That too. Yeah, okay. So with that being said, let's get on to the podcast. Please make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel too. It would mean a lot to me. All right, cool. Let's do it. All right, here we go. My Dancing Eyes Podcast, episode 4. Brandon, here we are.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, man. How are you doing today?
Doing good. Happy to be here. This is exciting.
Yeah, it's always exciting for me to meet somebody with Nystagmus. It's still like I told you earlier, I still get nervous before every episode. So I'm just trying to. My eyes always freak out too whenever I'm a little nervous. So
Me too. My eyes always move. Do yours do
what
that
is that?
too?
What is that? I don't. Just like they always move. I don't know what that.
I
There
wish
must
there
be a
was a
name
name
for
for
it.
that. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, maybe someone should start a podcast or something about that.
Good idea. Good idea.
All right, man. So you were telling me this is I'm your first person that you've met with Nystagmus.
Yeah. We were just saying how I feel like it's way rarer than the statistics say. Because
Yeah, what is
really
this
never met
one?
anyone.
What is this 1 in 1,000 statistic that we always hear about?
Yeah, I know. In 25 years, I've literally never met anyone else. One person, but they had a voluntary nystagmus that they got after like a car accident or something, and he was excited to show me because he noticed that I had it, and he was like, "Oh, how'd you get it?" And I was like, "Oh, I was born with it." And then he was showing me how his eyes. I was like, "Cool."
You know that there's actually a subreddit for people who have voluntary nystagmus.
Oh,
It's
really? I
called
haven't seen it.
yeah, it's called Eye Shakers. So
Right on.
it's weird because I was initially a few years ago I was looking for some Nystagmus subreddits, and I found Nystagmus, which is where I met you, and then I found Eye Shakers, and these are all people in there who have it voluntarily, and most of them don't even know that there's an involuntary form of Nystagmus.
Hmm.
So you'll see it like an occasional comment in there, and they'll be like, "Hey, by the way, like there's actually people who don't have control over this," and it's like it's not so
Yeah.
fun. But
Right.
yeah,
I don't know much about. Honestly, I haven't done a ton of research into nystagmus before. I've just had it. It's like I don't really like. I haven't delved into it a lot, so I'm excited to talk to you to learn about it because I assume you probably know more about what we
you think
have
I
than I
you
do.
think I know things?
But I've heard voluntary nystagmus can generally be a little dangerous in some ways, like connected to like brain injuries potentially too. Is that generally what because it's like acquired or you know?
I don't even know. I've never spoken to anybody who had acquired nystagmus before, so they've all been
Okay,
born with it.
gotcha. Okay. Sorry, I'm
Like,
derailing the conversation already. I'm gonna do that
dude,
a lot
go
throughout.
whatever direction you want to. I don't have a specific way of doing this.
You're not prepared
Um,
at all? Come on, dude.
nah. Come, what? Why would I do that? But
Oh.
yeah, I guess. So how do you say nystagmus affects your life, like on a scale of 1 to 10?
On a scale of 1 to 10, I feel like while I like personally can always tell my eyes are shaking, can always tell I'm having focus issues, and clearly like I wear contacts and that helps versus glasses, but I feel like I have pretty bad eyesight, but I don't think it's actually affected me in a ton of like meaningful ways. Like I drive, I prefer not to drive at night, but I can and I sometimes do. I've never really had like any kind of thing that I can't do, that maybe I wouldn't have wanted to do. So like I was told I'll never fly a plane. I'm okay with that. Or like I'll never be like a professional baseball player. I'm okay with that too. But overall, I don't think it's really affected me too much. You know, and throughout school, I was always having to sit super up front, which maybe was a good thing. So I didn't goof off as
Fair
much.
enough.
But yeah, so along with the nystagmus, I have astigmatism. It's negative 5.5 on both eyes. And I'm colorblind too. So I kind of just got all the full
Uh,
force of
so you're colorblind. Interesting.
yeah, yeah. Pretty much every color too. I don't quite remember the exact name for it, but I just have a hard time distinguishing colors. But yeah. So I guess 1 to 10. I don't know, 4 or 5. It's like middle of the road. It hasn't affected me hugely, but I can't see super well. So
Do you think it affects you less now than it did maybe in high school or middle school?
yeah, probably just because I've dealt with it longer and I figure out how to like, oh, I know that I'm just not going to be able to see that sign or the board over there. Like I gotta, make an effort to move closer or move around. I don't know. I think sometimes when I was younger, I didn't fully realize that not everyone has this. I mean, I
Right.
obviously knew no one had it, but I mean, like, I didn't really fully realize like what what the difference was between what normal people see and at least what I figured normal people see and then what I see.
I hear you on that. I feel like when I was growing up, I kind of figured that what I saw was the same as what everybody else saw. I knew
Mm,
that I had a condition and I knew that they shook around, but I didn't know how drastically it actually affected my vision until other people would bring it up. They'd be like,
yeah.
"Hey, like you can't see that, man? Like what do
Yeah.
you you're wearing glasses. Why can't you see that?"
I know. Yeah, no, I get people saying the same thing, like to this day. I think one thing I realized too is I think it really affects my ability to like notice people in a crowd or like find something. And people always are like, or like, I used to think I was just kind of like a head in the clouds oblivious person, which I'm not really.
Mhm.
But I think I literally can't, like, my eyes will be scanning this horizon or the people or the crowd or whatever. It just, I couldn't pick someone out. I'd have to really focus in on it. Do
Oh
you
yeah.
have you had that same kind of thing?
That's my day-to-day life. It's I'm so bad with
I'm not alone.
faces. I always feel pretty rude as well. I mean, I once I explain myself and there's no need to feel like bad at all, but
Yeah.
very often I'll forget somebody's name or they'll know who I am and I don't know who they are and I always feel
I do that
bad.
sometimes too, and I like generally am like I think that your name's Mario or whatever, but like I don't know. I can't. It takes me a couple times to like meet someone without like making a real effort. Yeah, I don't think it's like face blindness, but it's some form of like.
It's face blind. It's I feel like I'm face blind. I don't even know what face blind is, but that's probably me.
I think that's
Sounds about
actually a
right.
condition. I
Really?
heard like truly unable to. I saw it in a show, so honestly, it might be fake. No offense to people if it is real and you are face blind. I apologize. I'm just ignorant. But
I feel like everybody who's watching this is some way or another face blind, or they're a parent of somebody
yeah, yeah.
who's gonna, yeah. Um, well, do you ever feel like do you ever know two people, right? But you think they're the same person because they look slightly alike?
Um, I don't think I've had that particularly. I know a few sets of twins. I get them mixed up, but I don't think that has anything to do with nystagmus.
It always
uh,
happens to me. Like if I go into a new place of work or if I go into a new class, I'll see one person and then I'll see like that same person again later on in the day. And come to find out they're not the same person. They just look very alike to me. And I'll call them like the wrong name and they're like, oh, that's not me. It's somebody
oh yeah.
else.
I've
So,
definitely done that to someone who's like, "Oh no, that's you're looking for my brother." Like I was like,
uh,
but whatever.
yeah, I tend to hold off on calling somebody by name until I know like 100% that that is who I think I'm talking to.
Yeah, I kind of do the same thing.
Yeah. So would do you consider nystagmus a disability?
I think I think it depends. I think it depends on different factors, and I think it depends on people's specific experiences with it, as I would assume a lot of different things. I don't really consider myself disabled because of nystagmus. I don't really consider it a disability because again, like I haven't really, I don't necessarily need disability assistance or extra extra accommodations for anything. At
Hmm.
least I never have before. In the future, maybe that'll change. Who knows? But for myself, I don't. I think it heavily is dependent on different people's experiences with it, and what it may or may not allow them or may not prohibit them to do. You know,
I think you're actually the first person who responded saying that they don't feel that it's a disability.
really.
Yeah,
I think that gives kind of credence to what I said too about for me, I don't really think it is, but I think it's totally valid to call it one for
for
sure.
sure.
What are your thoughts on that?
Uh, Um, well, I think the only aspect in which nystagmus really affects my life is I don't drive. So
Hmm.
I feel a bit disabled from that aspect. I do actually have a driver's license though. So
Hmm.
I have a license and I never quite got comfortable enough to get on the road with my vision. I think it has a lot to do with my depth perception. It's hard for me to tell how far away a car is. So that is the only aspect of my life that I feel like gets affected drastically by the nystagmus. Like, yeah, sure, my eyesight is not good, my vision's not the best, but my vision hasn't been the best my whole life. So I've gotten used to that. And I've gotten
Yeah.
used to the shakiness and some of the awkwardness that can come up in conversations or like, uncomfortable moments.
Yeah.
I I don't no, I don't think that it's for me. I don't feel like I'm disabled by nystagmus. I feel like it provides a single hurdle, and that is the transportation.
Yeah.
But I don't think that that alone is enough for me to classify it as a disability for myself. But the more people that I talk to, um, some people it's much more severe than it is for me, and I totally understand how it could be a disability for
Yeah,
others.
I'd probably rethink my answer if I were not able to drive or were not able to, if it caused more of a, I'd say like concrete inconvenience in my life. It's mainly just like, oh, I live with bad eyesight versus, not being able to do something that maybe the majority of people do. So
Yeah.
that's interesting how you kind of choose not to drive, but you don't necessarily consider it a disability. That's interesting.
Well, just because there's so many people who have it worse than
Yeah.
us, who just have
Yeah.
it so much worse. And I think if you asked me that question in high school, maybe like a freshman or a sophomore, um, if it was a disability, I think I would say yes, just
Mm.
because of the amount of bullying that I had to go through over those years, and just the amount of shit that people put me through over my eyes. It really consumed me, and I think back then I would have said that it was a disability, but I think my answer has evolved over time.
Yeah.
Did you have any experiences with bullying?
Yeah, totally. I maybe it was just my personality. I don't know. So I don't know if it was directly to my eyes.
I feel like that too. I was a class clown. So
I mean, I feel like everyone had some type of bullying, but yeah, for sure. I think my main kind of bullying experiences were closer to like elementary school and when I was younger. I think, kids are brutal and they can
yes,
be very very maybe not understanding of people who are different and maybe in some ways kids can also be really accepting of that too, which is great. But in terms of like my experience in school when I was younger, yeah, people definitely were like, what's wrong with your eyes, like just very blatantly, which
yeah.
is which now I mean, especially in the last probably I don't know, 10 years, I don't fully remember when I really made this kind of transition into like accepting it and being like, yeah, I'll tell you about it. Nystagmus. My eyes always shake. I have to turn my head. I kind of look goofy sometimes to like, get my null point so I can actually see something. And so I'm super open about that now. I don't get offended in any way when people ask me about that now. But I think when I was younger, I was probably more self-conscious about it. Especially like going through school and realizing my eyes were different from people. People were like, "Oh, crazy eyes." And it's like that luckily never stuck with too much. But I think throughout, like, I had a pretty so I switched to like a smaller class size when I was in fourth grade. So past that, I kind of got to know my class a lot better and kind of went through all of the grades with like a smaller group of people. And I think that generally helped too, versus like being in a much larger school. I was in a pretty small school. So kind of everyone knew each other. If I were in a
Okay.
bigger school, I think that would definitely have probably affected it. More people that didn't know me and
More faces to forget.
exactly more faces to forget. But yeah, like throughout high school, I'm pretty lucky. I didn't get really bullied for my eyes. Bullied in other regards, but overall, I'm fine with that now. But yeah.
So when do you start going through the transition period of starting to accept your condition and becoming more comfortable with it?
I think it naturally just happened as I matured, as I just got older and started to accept more things about like myself too, non-eye, non-eye focus, just like, realizing who I was and figuring out my values and like what my passions and stuff I liked to do and the people that I like to be around. So like, I'd say probably like junior to senior year of high school, maybe a little bit of sophomore too, but I think throughout that, it's just a super growing phase for sure, mentally and emotionally. And I think my eye, like accepting like my eyes just kind of just
Yeah.
lumped into that time period for me.
I think that time frame is actually pretty similar for myself too. I'd say
Really.
probably yeah, probably like 18 years old, so maybe a little later for me. 18 years old, I started to get a little more comfortable with it, and like you said for yourself, I think it had less to do with the eyes and more just becoming comfortable with who I am as a person and
Yeah.
like my morals and like my personal beliefs
Yeah.
and all that stuff, and less to do with the eyes.
I think it helps too for me, like when I stopped really caring about what other people thought about me in terms of what I like to do, or like, I don't want to hide like different things I'm passionate about that some people maybe think is like cringy or whatever. I was like, like screw it. I want to be myself, and I'm lucky, I think very lucky in that regard that I was in a environment that was very accepted and encouraged and by just a lot of people. Other people were kind of going through those phases too, and I have really great. I'm very very fortunate to have had really good family support throughout that time too. For
That's
my eyes,
huge.
yeah, it's huge, and it makes me feel super lucky because I know not everyone has that. Whether that's like, just emotionally or and supportively, or like specifically for like the medical issues, and I guess in particular our eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a lot of support through that. My parents were always really helpful for all of that.
So what are you passionate about? What gets you going?
Just like in life in general.
Yeah.
I'm a super super into music. I don't know if you can see the drum set in the somewhere. Um, hey, there we go.
Okay.
Can't really
Is
see
it
it.
are those drums? I can't see shit.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
Woo.
there you go. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
Got my
Gotcha.
records here. So I love music.
Oh, you collect vinyls?
Yeah, I do.
So do I.
Oh,
I have
nice.
my collection right here, right to here's here's one of them right here.
Ooh, very nice. What is that?
It's 100 gex. Are you
Heck yeah.
familiar?
No, I'm not. It looks like a cool cover though. I'll take a
Oh
listen.
yeah, it's pretty interesting music, if I do say
Nice.
so myself. It's some people might not consider it to be music. I
It,
say it's music.
what is it like experimental industrial stuff? What?
I would say it's like hyper pop. It's very experimental. There's a lot of stuff going on, but it's super interesting to me.
Nice. Awesome. We'll have to talk more about music on another podcast sometime. Uh,
Okay, let's
always
do it.
down to chat about that. But yeah, so I'm really into music. I live in California and right by the ocean, and I'm really lucky to have grown up around here. So I'm a big scuba diver. I love kind of like ocean marine conservation and animals and wildlife and all that. I'm big into martial arts. I really like kickboxing, and I've done a variety
Nice.
of that, the different styles of that. And yeah, otherwise, just kind of keeping active. When I can go to the snow, I love skiing. Again, I'm a pretty fortunate guy and able to like really foster a lot of the things I love to do. So
That's great.
um, yeah. Luckily, Nystagmus hasn't really held me back from a lot of that. Maybe in skiing a little bit. I think that's actually an interesting thing I was going to bring up or transition to something I wanted to bring up with you was like I mentioned before, my mom and my dad were always very supportive of me and helpful and with my eyes. But I think something that was a challenge growing up was my mom being a very loving, protective person. She definitely realized the struggles I had with my eyes and kind of the difficulties that it could cause me, especially when I was younger in terms of eyesight. So, like for example, when we were skiing, she was very protective. Like, make sure you're staying. Make sure you're going slow enough so you can see what's coming, or when I was playing any kind of sport, or really just kind of any time through life, she was constantly checking up on my eyes. Brandon, how are you doing? How are you seeing?
Uh-huh.
And which, in hindsight, it makes me feel very happy I had that support. In the moment, of course, it could always be pretty annoying.
My mom does the same thing too. I
it's
struggle with the same thing too, man.
it's funny because I feel bad or like I feel bad, making like it sound like it's an issue, but because
No, but
it's
I totally hear
great,
you,
but
and it's just your mom, loving you. I deal with the
yeah,
same thing
exactly.
with my mom too. My mom's such a loving person,
Yeah.
and she's always asking me. Well, like for example, recently I had LASIK on my eyes, which maybe we
Mm.
can get into later. But
Yeah.
I had LASIK, and she would ask me every day, "How are your eyes? How's your vision? How are you seeing?" And
Mhm.
eventually, I had to ask her, like, "Hey, please, can we keep that question to maybe like once a week
Once a
instead
week
of
versus five
instead of
times
like,
a day.
yeah, yeah."
Yeah.
She's gonna listen to this and laugh. I hope so.
Cool.
But yeah.
Hi, Frankie.
Um um yeah, interesting. Okay. So nystagmus hasn't really affected you so much when it comes like you're doing kickboxing too. That's sick. So
Yeah.
that really
Yeah.
hasn't affected you much in terms of like sports or athletic
I guess
activities.
it really hasn't. Yeah. And again, I'm kind of interested in because I always thought my eyes were really bad and my vision, honestly, at least from my understanding, is not good. But it just makes me think like, what are other people with nystagmus dealing with if they're not able to, if it's causing them inconveniences in their life that it's not causing me.
Yeah.
So kind of interested in that, but
So
yeah.
kind of what we were talking about earlier, like a lot of like people experience a more drastic motion in their eyes. Some of their eyes
Yeah.
move more, and some of their vision is worse. But I'm also curious how parenting comes into play and how much like a parent enables their kid to do, and how much of a
Yeah.
disability the parent says that the kid has, because I think that also plays a major role, like the upbringing.
Totally. Oh yeah, no, 100%. I feel like if I didn't, while I just was mentioning how somewhat protective my parents could be, especially kind of around the like with my eyes, I was always also very fortunate on the fact that they still wanted me to try new things and push me to do new things. So I honestly owe a lot of the current, my current interests and passions to my family for getting me into them and pushing me to try new things for sure.
So do I, 100%.
Yeah, we're both very lucky in that regard. Then,
I feel like our moms are a little similar. The more you
yeah,
talk about your mom.
just for I'm willing to bet you're right.
Yeah. So what kind of like makes your nystagmus worse? Are there certain activities that
Yeah,
make the
I
shaking
mean,
worse?
when I'm really tired, for sure. Like
Yeah.
when I'm clear, like physically and emotionally tired, and mentally tired, like I notice it. It's a clear like worsening. Can almost like I've it doesn't happen often, but a couple times throughout my life, I've definitely had it where I get so tired that I get like physically dizzy from it.
Hmm.
But I think that's really it. I'm trying to think like,
What about maybe if you're nervous or if you're anxious?
nervous, anxious. I don't know if I've particularly noticed a change in
Hmm.
my eyes with that. Next time I get nervous, I will check it though. I'll do a check it. How are my eyes doing?
Yeah.
But that's interesting. Does that happen with you?
Um, I'd say it depends. Like if I had to do a speech in front of my class in high school and
Yeah,
I'm about to go up there, my eyes are gonna go crazy. But
interesting.
also I feel that might have to do with me kind of trying to counter my null point. So
Mhm.
instead of like me moving my head in what I consider to be like an awkward movement, I'll try to keep my head still or straight. And then doing that just already is going to make the shaking go a lot worse.
Yeah, yeah. I think that definitely makes me think of times I've kind of been in front of audiences and people, and I'm not a big fan of public speaking. It's gotten easier over the years, but I don't love it at all. But I think it's actually kind of funny because with our nystagmus, we can't really focus on like one person on the audience. It kind of to me just kind of looks like a big blur, and maybe
Yes.
in a way that's a blessing because then you're just talking to like some group of people you can't even see.
Yeah. Yeah, I
It
definitely cannot be making any eye contact with somebody
Oh
who's
yeah,
in the audience. I can't tell if they're looking at me or if I'm looking
yeah.
at them.
I remember in school I definitely had some times too where like for some dumb reason my friends would make it their mission that class to make me laugh while I was giving a presentation or something. They're just being the worst people on earth because if there's something I hate worse than like speaking in public, it's like obviously making a fool of myself in public and not being able to speak because I laugh too much. And I kind of I easily get the case of the giggles a lot, I
Yeah.
guess, especially when I was younger. So um, yeah, maybe nystagmus was a blessing in that regard.
Well, it's interesting that you say like nystagmus a blessing because that's actually one of my questions. Like,
Okay, yeah, yeah.
do you have any positives that have come out of nystagmus, and if so, what do you think they would be?
I let's see, off the top of my head, the only thing I can think of is, more again, more recently when I've gotten more comfortable with it and okay to just tell or tell people about it who ask. It's a cool party trick.
Yeah.
It's a cool conversation starter, I guess, if someone happens to mention that. But thinking of like any like real benefits, not off the top of my head. Do you have any? I'm curious what other guests have said about this too.
So I think for me personally, um, it's humbling. I think nystagmus is very humbling, and I think I seriously think I'm a much better human being because I have nystagmus as opposed to like how I would be if I didn't have it. I think I treat everybody with a lot more respect than I otherwise would. like more empathy, like I'm dealing with something and like everybody is dealing with their own stuff, and I try to just treat everybody um, treat everybody better. Um, I,
Totally. Because I think it's also not something that's really, nystagmus is not something that's incredibly apparent all the time. And so it can be kind of invisible sometimes if, you're in the dark or someone's not like focused, like looking at your eyes. And it's the same thing for a lot of other conditions. It's you look at someone and on the surface they may seem completely normal and doing and perfect, but under whether that's a mental health condition or another physical condition that's like not really readily apparent. It's
yeah,
like
there's so many things, and just like
everyone has something going on. So yeah, that's a really
yeah.
good point.
Yeah, I think it also gives me some character. Like it's
Yeah,
given me a lot of life experiences that I otherwise wouldn't have had if I didn't have nystagmus. So there's a bunch of negatives for me, obviously,
yeah,
but they're diminishing as time goes by, and I think as time goes by, the positives become more apparent to me as well.
totally. I love
So
that. That's really important. I feel like if you can like figure out it shows a lot about your character if you can focus on, the fewer benefits or the fewer good parts of something when you know that there's a lot of, difficulties it brought you, but like if you can still focus on the good, I feel like that's really
it
it's
also
just
trains you for other
well
aspects of life too,
in
like look at the positive.
every aspect of life without a doubt.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's why, well, one of the reasons I started the podcast is because I asked myself what would be beneficial to me when I was 15 or 16 and I was getting bullied. What
Yeah.
what would make me feel better? And at the time I had never met anybody with nystagmus, never spoken to anybody. I wasn't a part of the subreddit. So I think something like this would have been very beneficial to me during those years. And I like part of me just feels like I owe it to the community to get some people together and share our experiences and hopefully like uplift some people who are struggling with it, and parents too, because I see a countless number of parents who are just curious because their kid has nystagmus and they don't know how bad
I'd
it
say
is.
curious or even, on like
Concerned.
yeah, concerned for sure. Like on a, I guess more harsh level, which is totally valid too, because
Yeah.
who's heard, not very many people have heard of it if they don't personally have some kind of experience with it, whether it's through, a family member or themselves. I feel like the vast majority of people who I talk to about it, or I've told about it, they're like, "Oh wow, I didn't know that." And so, yeah, no, I can see how it's concerning when your child's eyes are look like they're,
Going crazy.
yeah, yeah.
Whenever you ever had somebody see your eyes and tell you that they've met somebody with nystagmus before, or are you always the first one?
Um, Off the top of my head, I don't think so. Um, I've seen, a couple non-eye doctors will notice it. And they're just like,
Yeah,
oh, I don't see many people with that. It's like,
I've
yeah,
had that. I've
special.
had like a nurse get excited one time. They're like, "Oh, you have
Yeah,
nystagmus." I'm like,
yeah,
"Yeah,
me too. Me too. It's like we're
yeah,
some special specimen for them. That's funny. Yeah, I've definitely had that too.
yeah." It makes me feel more comfortable around them. Like, "Oh, cool. Like
Hmm.
you're accepting of the nystagmus. Sick."
Yeah, yeah. They think I'm
Yeah.
cool. All right.
All right, I'll take it. So okay, I guess one of the questions that I have here would be, so if you were given the opportunity to get rid of the nystagmus 100% now, would you take that or would you keep it?
Like I struggle to say like I would keep it because yeah, my life is fine, great without it or with it. I've learned to live with it. That's the only thing I know, and so I'm happy. I'm lucky to be happy with it, I think, but uh I've always been interested in what it would be like to not have my eyes constantly shaking.
Same,
You know,
same.
I feel like that can be a I think it's almost a bit of a like romanticized question. You see that in like movies or something. It's like, you know, if you had this, if you could get rid of it, get rid of the struggle, would you? And it's like, no, because struggle makes me stronger. And I think that's totally true in so many ways, nystagmus included. But like, no, I think it would be cool to not have it. I'd like to not have it, but
Yeah,
I'm not constantly looking for a way to cure it. I'm okay
right.
with it. But no, I think it would be cool to be able to see normally.
I think, yeah, I mean, seeing 2020 would be sick.
Yeah.
Like, I would love to see 2020. I think I
Hmm.
probably have a similar answer to that question as you do.
Yeah.
Um, I feel just all the years that I've had it and gotten used to it, that part, like part of me is like, no, I've had it for this long. I'm cool with my situation. There's no need for me to get rid of it. And the other part of me is like, dude, what are you saying? Like, get rid of it. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
This whole time you didn't want to have it and you have the opportunity to get rid of it. Uh, yeah, I think I would probably get rid of it. I'd probably get rid of it too. But then I would also like part of me would feel kind of like bad for other people with nystagmus. Like
Sure.
I feel like if everybody with nystagmus had the opportunity to get rid of it, then I would be cool with getting rid of it. But
Hmm.
part of me, I haven't thought about this too much, which is ironic because I ask you the question. Like I should probably have answers. But part of me is like I um if I'm the only person who can get rid of it and nobody else can get rid of it, I would feel like I abandoned like those people in a way too. But I
Yeah,
haven't done
no,
too much
I
thinking
like
about
that.
it.
I personally wouldn't be offended if you got yours cured, but I understand that's a nice like community mentality that I think is important to have.
I don't know if I would be offended either. I have to think about that question more. I don't know what the right
I
answer
think
for
I'd
that
be
is.
happy. I'd be happy for you.
Yeah, if you got your nystagmus cured right now, I'd be happy for you too.
Oh,
Yeah,
thanks, man.
I guess I wouldn't feel like I'm abandoning. Well, I feel like fuck. Maybe because I started the podcast about
Yeah.
nystagmus, I feel like it's too late.
No,
Like,
maybe it's different because you and I were both saying like, and I think this is probably true of a lot of people. There's not a big community. There's not a big nystagmus community. Like, yeah, we have the subreddit. I'm not incredibly active on Reddit in the
me
first place,
neither.
but like but yeah, I don't think I've ever really posted in nystagmus. Do we have like a Discord or anything? Is
There
there?
is a Discord.
There is?
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, maybe I will. I'll join that.
it's not
Um,
very active though.
yeah. See, I feel like it's not something. I guess it's not really a condition that either due to its rarity, or maybe just due to the fact that maybe for the vast majority of people or a lot of people with it, it's kind of more similar to my case where it's not, a very, I wouldn't say for myself, it's a very like personally defining trait. Like I have it. But it's never been something that I necessarily identify with as like this is part of me. It's more of yeah, I'm living with this and it's fine.
That's
But
good.
at the same time, I think it is really cool for people to use it to identify more closely with it, and I think again that comes from personal experience with it. Maybe those who have struggled more with it or had it really define something in their life more. I think that's a great way to go through with it. But yeah, I was just trying to I guess posit ways like reasons why there's not a really active community
Hmm.
with it. But maybe this is the jumping off point for more of a stronger community and more support around it.
We'll see.
Yeah,
We'll see. I'm curious to see what's up with the community in like a year from now.
yeah.
Even if it's just like a few people, like I feel like, if this could just help a few people, because I know certainly it would have helped me when I was
Yeah,
younger,
yeah.
and
I think it
there's so many
absolutely would
people.
have too. For
Yeah.
me too. Yeah.
What, so how do you think? Here's my next question. Poor
Okay.
transition. I got to dating life, dude. How has it affected your dating life?
Just put some kind of like fade to black advertisement in between that, and you're good.
There we go.
Um, dating life. It hasn't really affected it too much. I don't think I've never had anyone at least knowingly reject me because in terms of my knowing why they rejected me because like,
Mhm.
oh, that guy's eyes are crazy. I'm currently single right now, but I've had a handful of girlfriends in the past, and good relationships, and I don't think they've ever really been affected by nystagmus too much. I think, okay, this is going to get I don't think it's too TMI.
Do
But
it.
I think nystagmus can be, at least for me, I think it's almost been kind of like, while I don't personally identify it as like a defining characteristic of me, I think other people sometimes do that for me, I guess, like
Mhm.
saying, oh, you have this thing, especially I think this has happened with some past girlfriends where it's like they're seeing me a lot, they see my eyes a lot, and they see it all the time, and it's like not making fun of it, but and maybe making fun of it in like a playful way, which I'm fine with. I think before, I think when I was younger, I definitely would not have been fine with that.
Mhm.
But like almost like anthropomorphizing it a little bit. Is that kind of weird? Do you know what I mean by
I don't
that?
even know what that word is.
Kind of giving human characteristics to something. So it's like, oh, I think this happens sometimes when maybe from actually no, one specific example that I've heard is some people who have had, I believe the term is a colonostomy, where part of their colon is removed, and they have I'm sorry, I don't quite remember the medical term for it, but it's like a basically a bag on their abdomen, to because they don't have a colon. So, anyways, I've heard people naming who've named kind of that bag and making it kind of a part of themselves, or like another kind of uh, anthropomorphized to use the word again, kind of part of them. And I think, it's different because it's not like another separate thing on my body, but it's like a characteristic of mine that is like, viewed as like, oh, your eye, like, or maybe just my eyes in general, like thinking of my eyes as a separate being from like who I am.
Okay.
And maybe I'm not, I don't think I'm explaining it super well, because I think it's a difficult thing to fully explain. And
To
maybe
explain.
I haven't even really thought about it. This is a huge amount. I'm just kind of ad-libbing here,
Mhm.
but you think your question made me like kind of come to this conclusion. It's like, yeah, sometimes like, it's like, oh, your eyes are doing that again, or your eyes are like really wild right now. It's like focusing on like what my eyes are doing versus like what I am doing or what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
Um,
For sure. Yeah, I think you did a good job of explaining it.
Thanks.
Um, it
I
took
don't
me a
know.
minute. I mean,
It's a
it took.
super abstract concept. So I don't know if I'm even, I don't know if I'm trying
I
to
feel
explain
like
it.
I feel like I do that about my eyes more than other people do. Just kind
Really.
of separating the two, and maybe other people just
You ever
don't
talk to
bring it
your
up.
eyes?
No.
No,
What about
no.
you?
I think I've done that before.
Yeah.
I kind of I talk to myself a lot,
Okay.
and so just in general, and maybe if I'm like, yeah, yeah. Maybe I'm sure I've referred to my eyes as a separate entity before.
Do they have a name?
They don't have a name. They don't have.
Damn.
Yeah,
Oh, you'd be the first one.
eyes, maybe eyes.
Wow,
Just
that's a lame name. Gotta get a better one.
I think it's it really gets right to the point.
It
It's like
does.
naming a dog dog.
Yeah. I used to have a dog.
It's so bad it's funny.
I used to have a dog that we only had for like a year or two, and we never came up with a name for him. His name was Puppy.
Puppy,
We could.
perfect.
It's a good
Yeah,
name. Yeah,
yeah.
straight to the point.
It's like a guy named Guy.
There you go. You ever met one of those?
I have actually, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, how about you?
I know Guy Fieri. I don't know him
Oh, okay.
personally, but that's the only person that I
Yeah.
know.
No, I remember meeting one guy in college named Guy. And then there's are you into never mind.
No, do
It's
it. Ask it.
oh, I was just curious. I think of Guy, Buddy, and Pal. They're all from South Park. The Canadians calling each other that. I don't know if you've seen that.
Fuck, I've seen a bunch of South Park episodes, but I don't remember them.
It's like I'm not your buddy, Guy. I'm not your guy, pal. Whatever.
Uh,
Anyways, sorry, I'm getting
oh,
close.
kind of like a who's on first
Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of.
exactly.
Okay, okay, I hear you. Okay, so dating.
Yeah,
So you've done well for yourself, regardless of.
yeah, somewhat, I think.
Okay,
I've never. Yeah, I mean, throughout COVID right now, and just kind of the last kind of year has been super kind of busy, like moving around and new job and kind of family stuff. So I haven't really been doing anything, but I don't think it's necessarily due to my eyes.
I think
Yeah,
this podcast is this episode specifically is a pretty good example of like mind over matter and just
yeah,
like your mindset. I think is very good to hear and very like to me. I think hearing this episode specifically would have benefited me a lot when I was younger. Just hearing you talk about how like it's there for you, but it doesn't affect you that much, and you're able to do the things that you want to do. From what I'm hearing, you're still
yeah.
kickboxing, you're skiing.
That makes me really happy to hear because I mean that's a reason why I would have wanted to come on when you originally made this post. I was like, oh, you gave a really good explanation of why you're doing this, and
Yes.
yeah, that's something that attracted me to it. I was like, hey, why not? That would be kind of cool. Pushing myself out of my comfort zone a little bit too, which I think is a method in which I think I've gotten mentally to the point where I'm able to focus more on that kind of mind over matter,
Yeah.
where it's like, with my eyes, for example, and or um, where I was like, for skiing or really anything, like try, like if you have the ability and energy and time to try these new things that you may feel will be more difficult for you due to your eyes. And I'm by you, I'm just talking to anyone who's listening who may be feeling this way. Whether eyes are like the main factor or they're just a supporting factor in kind of your maybe hesitation to try something new. I think that's really when you start to grow as a person and start to overcome the difficulties you are facing. And, particularly talking about nystagmus here, of course, but this kind of goes for everything else. It's like, it can go for a lot in life where it's like, even if you're having these like trepidations about, oh, what if this makes this so much harder? Or what if my eyes make this a lot harder? If you can be safe about it, and you trust the environment and the people you're doing some kind of activity with, even if you don't necessarily continue along with the activity, just trying it one time gives you so much good experience and
Yeah.
gives so much good, it makes it easier to try something new the next time and then the next time, the next time. And then after a while, you almost enjoy that kind of thrill of like, going into the unknown, like, oh, I don't know if this is going to be hard for me. I don't know if my eyes are gonna affect me badly, but if they do, but if they do, I learned something that I can't do as easily. And if they don't, it's like, oh, cool, I tried something new. So,
Do you have any
uh,
examples of something that you tried and your eyes were just like, no, no, like this is not
um,
happening?
I think driving at night,
Okay,
probably.
it's a good one.
Again, I can drive during the day. I very much prefer not to do it at night. It does make me pretty. I have to be very focused on the road. and very focused. In terms of other stuff, I think physically, I've mentioned it hasn't really gotten in the way of me doing a lot of things, but I think it's definitely made some things more difficult. My balance in general, I think, is really bad. And I think a big part of that is my eyes. And I'm curious if you've actually felt this too, because
Oh
whenever
yeah.
I am trying to balance on, whether it's on one leg or just on any kind of thing, any kind of physical thing I'm doing with my balance, everyone's first piece of advice is look at a point, stare at a point, and like don't move. And it's like I can't do that. Give me other pieces of advice. Do you feel that way too? For like, have you ever tried to balance like
Um,
vertical arm or something?
I feel like my balance is generally pretty poor as
Yeah.
well. I've never really tried to do too much balancing. I remember there was one time I was in summer camp. I think I was 12 and I was around a group of girls and I totally just like wiped out. I was just walking and I just like fell, just like I was off centered or whatever. And one of them thought it was funny and she just like did the same thing. And I was like, oh, okay. That was fun
That's
actually because
great.
then we had a good laugh about it. But so I feel yeah, my balance is probably it's like worse than others, but it doesn't affect me
Yeah.
really on the day to day.
Yeah. That's really cute. Joining into like falling down on the ground, making it easier for you because you just all laugh together. That's good. That's cute.
Yeah, yeah. That's the only time that I really recall like just like falling. Like, I don't even know what happened.
Yeah.
Maybe they're
Oh,
like hot or something, and I was like, oh, a bunch of like pretty girls. And let me just fall
probably.
real quick.
That fell
But
head over heels like that.
oh, literally, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, what else? What else? What do I got here? You don't have any kids yet, do you?
Oh, no, I do not.
No. Okay.
Thank God.
Oh, dude, I was at earlier this year. People were saying Happy Father's Day to me. I was like, why? Why?
What?
I'm not. Stop. Don't.
Happy not a Father's Day. Oh my God.
Yeah, yeah. Thank God. Like, it's way too young. Um,
Yeah.
I guess I'm a little curious if let's say you're planning on having a kid and your doctor tells you that with 100% certainty that your kid is going to have nystagmus. Uh, are you going to follow through with having the kid? Is that going to make you think twice?
Um, I think this kind of again goes back to my personal um lack of, I would say the fact that I don't necessarily feel nystagmus has been a disability on me. I think
Okay.
if I had different experiences with it, maybe experiences that other people have, I probably would say it would at least make me consider not having a child. But I think if I was guaranteed that my child would have the same kind of eye experiences I have, I probably would be okay with that because I think that something that would help him or her is that they would have me as someone who can tell them about it and help them through live with it and coach them through it and be the support, like, personal support
Yeah.
versus because I think as we've talked about a lot already, most people I think with nystagmus don't know another person with it. They're the only one dealing with it. And they can have doctors tell them about it and they can have familial or friend support, but if you don't necessarily, it's different coming from someone with it. So I think I would I have confidence in myself that I think I would do an okay job with helping them get through it. But
It's great to hear. That's
yeah,
good. Yeah. I saw a post on the Reddit the other day. Um, somebody was saying that there's no way he's gonna have kids if
interesting.
they have nystagmus. I felt bad because it's just
Yeah.
like I know we all have different experiences with the condition, but it like I said earlier, really to me is just more mind over matter. And if you can and this has a lot more to do with other aspects of your life and like how you feel about yourself than it does about the nystagmus.
Yeah.
So, if
I
you, Go ahead.
Sorry, I think it's difficult for us to necessarily maybe like talk about, or difficult for anyone to critique like someone else's choice in that question, because I think, again, because they're the only one, ultimately they're the only one that can really tell how, like, really feel how much it's affected them, and or like
Yeah,
how much pain they're going through, whether not necessarily for nystagmus, but someone in pain or someone really tired. They're the only one that ultimately can make the decision for themselves, like, okay, this is too much for anyone else to go through. But I think it is sometimes easy to say, to think, not necessarily for this particular poster, but for anyone really, it's like, it's easy to say, uh, you know, either their condition is way worse than mine, and physically, like, I would also be feeling the way that they're feeling if I had as bad of nystagmus as them, and maybe I just have not as bad nystagmus as them.
hmm
Or I think, yeah, it goes into the mind over matter. This is not a fault on them for not being able to put their mind over the matter, but it's just they haven't gone through the same experiences that we have, and the same kind of environments that we have, to let us that's helped us get to the point where we are, like, okay with dealing with our own nystagmus in a
I
different.
agree. There really is a fine line there.
Yeah,
Like in critiquing someone else's decision like that. Like maybe they just have it so much worse off than I do.
yeah,
Yeah, so yeah, I'm totally with you on that. So pretty much just like kind of ending it off here. I have a couple more questions, and if you have any final things that you want to say, then we can get into that.
yeah.
Um, so like just some advice over here for people who are struggling with the condition, usually like younger kids, like maybe teenagers, but just anybody in general. Um, what are some recommendations? Maybe like philosophically, maybe it has less to do with your eyes and more to do with who you are as a person.
Hmm.
Anything though, like, do you have any recommendations that can maybe get somebody more comfortable with the condition and start to live their life better,
Yeah,
happier?
yeah. I think I think there's already been, I think, some good life lessons you and I have talked about already throughout the
Mhm.
show. So, I'm trying not to necessarily repeat those. But I think something that's been a commonality between everything we've been talking about too, and it seems from talking with you too, your experience versus my experiences, we've both been able to, be very fortunate enough to have people here to support us, and not necessarily to, like, actively help in some kind of way, but just to be a person there that, like, will not be judging you for your eyes, or not be making fun of you, obviously, in any way. And so, it's not easy for everyone, but I think a big thing is just to surround yourself with people who are understanding, and who are supportive of you and friendly. To just surround yourself with good people, and I think that can be a huge difference. And if you were suffering alone with this, and not able to tell anyone about it, or have anyone, or everyone would be like judging you about it, or just, yeah.
Okay,
Um, yeah,
it's
so
a good
I guess,
answer.
that I think that's a really general answer. I think it works for really anything. It's
Yeah.
kind of common sense. Surround yourself with good people, but again, I think it's for people in some environments easier said than done, unfortunately, which is very sad. But yeah,
Okay. And I think your answer to that question is going to probably correlate to the answer to this next question. But just for any parents with kids who were just diagnosed with nystagmus, what are
yeah,
some recommendations that you have to these parents?
yeah. I mean, just this goes for a lot of things about being a good parent, I think. And it's not that I'm a parent, but I've had parents, I've had good parents. And so I've been able to see, I know good role models as parents. And I think one of the big things was just being able to listen and being able to be listen in a judgment free way too, and not to, say, oh, why are you so hung up about this? Like, oh, it's not that bad. People are not making fun of you that bad. It's, again, you trusting that if your child comes to you crying about, their eyes, which I definitely did when I was in elementary school. My mom's told me multiple times, like, kid, like I was mentioning, my bullying was a little earlier in my life, I guess. So she was saying, yeah, you definitely came crying to me. People are making fun of your eyes, or you can't see super well. It was never in like a, oh, toughen up kind of thing. It was, at least, that was for me. I strive, I do better on positive reinforcement than negative reinforcement, or, kind of negative, like tough love kind of thing. So yeah, I think, it depends, but just being there for your kid and in a non-judgmental way. I think one other thing too is maybe you don't always have to be the problem solver. Sometimes just being there to listen to your kid talk about, what they're going through because of their eyes, versus always trying to come up with a solution
Yeah.
for that. Because while so many times, it's always out of the best intentions, sometimes it can be overwhelming or put undue pressure on your kid. Which they'll grow up to, I'm sure, appreciate that it was out of love, but maybe in the time itself can be annoying.
I
Or
think that's actually something that counselors like a marriage counselor would say to their clients.
yeah,
They would say, like, start practicing this when you're having a discussion, and ask the other person when they come to you for something. Ask the other person, are you looking for solutions, or are you looking for someone just to listen to you, like someone
yeah,
just to talk to? Because
yeah.
there's a big difference there.
Because I think it's especially important when there's not really a good solution. There's
Hmm.
really no solution. Like, it comes down to, you are going to have to live with this nystagmus. I mean, for the vast majority of times, you're going to have to live with it. So uh, it's just learning how to live with it versus, trying to avoid it. Just gotta deal with it, and find ways, or find things that work for you, and find how to do things in a way that works for you.
Hmm. Okay. Great. Yeah, I think that was a good answer too. Do you have any like final statements, any
I,
questions or anything?
yeah, I'm really curious about LASIK, actually, because
Okay.
you that was the first time I've ever heard you can get LASIK with nystagmus, and I'm actually very interested now. I thought you couldn't get it because I thought your eyes need to be perfectly still.
So technology is improving
I
um,
figured, yeah.
pretty pretty rapidly. So a lot of people. So I was turned down for LASIK at
Mm,
first. I went to one person down in Florida, and I was turned down for it. And then my mom found somebody. I don't think it was on Reddit. Maybe it was like on some other forum who said that they had gotten LASIK from somebody in Georgia,
mm.
and this person had nystagmus, and I was interested in getting LASIK for the longest time. So I reached out to this place. They're called, if anybody's curious, it's Georgia Center for Sight, and they're located in Athens, Georgia. So I contacted them. I went in there, and they looked at me, and they did acknowledge that I think I was the second person with nystagmus to go in there, and like the first person they did it on. And they did like they looked over me and they said, we're not sure if we can do the procedure, but how about just come in on procedure day, and we'll do like the left eye, and then if we're able to do it, then we'll follow through on the procedure. So
Wow.
I didn't know if we were going to follow through with the procedure until we were doing the procedure. So it was a very, very last moment thing there. So it was an interesting day. And yeah, so I think they started on my left eye first, and it wasn't fun. It was really not fun. They had to they sedated me. They put me on a bunch of shit. So I didn't feel anything, but they had to like hold my eye down with something to prevent the shaking from going too
Mhm.
bad. And I think that helped a lot. And then after like, maybe 5 minutes, the doctor was like, "All right, cool, we're done with the left eye." And I said, "Oh, cool. So we're doing it. So I'm getting LASIK. So like this is actually happening." And he's like, "Yeah, we're only one more eye to go." And I was like, "All right, sweet." So
Wow.
he went on to the second eye, and then boom, just like that. Um,
Hmm.
and I think the procedure lasted, dude, maybe like 25
I've heard
minutes.
it's really short. Yeah.
So the procedure for me was 25 minutes, but I think like it's supposed to be like 10 minutes, maybe like
Hmm.
5 to 10 minutes. And they had to take their time with me.
Yeah.
Um, um, Now,
Interesting.
do I recommend it though?
Yeah,
Because
that was my
there's
follow-up question. Is it worth it?
there's a few factors that come into it.
Hmm.
So I I still think that after the procedure, a pair of reading glasses would be pretty beneficial to me. I don't think that though I'm not seeing as good as I was seeing with the glasses. I feel like I got to the point where I was seeing as good as I was seeing with the glasses, and then my vision went down a little bit over the months because I got the procedure this year. I got the procedure in March or
Okay.
April actually, and for anybody listening, we're in December now. So I think my vision probably peaked maybe in July or sometime around there. And then my vision started to decrease a little bit. And and I went over to the doctor and I said, like, what's this about? I thought that I wouldn't have to wear glasses or anything. And he pretty much just said, well, um, the changes my prescription was so drastic that it wasn't gonna stay all like to as good as it could have been. If I'm not wording it very well, but my prescription was massive, and I'm sure
What's your prescription?
I don't know what the prescription was,
Okay.
um, but like for example, when I wear glasses, I had to wear the thick ass glasses,
Yeah.
like the super thick glasses. And if I wanted to get the thinner ones, I had to pay so much money.
Yeah.
But so pretty big prescription there. And he said, yeah, anybody with a prescription this big, um, it's not going to be totally perfect. Like you might see a slight decrease in vision. So do I regret getting it? I don't think that I regret getting it because I very much enjoy not wearing glasses. And if I only have to wear glasses so I can read a little bit easier, or like if I get back on the road, I might have to get a pair of glasses for that. But I manage like everyday life. I do everything that I do like on a daily basis just fine without glasses.
Yeah.
So, um, you know, everybody can take that for what it is. Like me personally, I can't do the contacts. I don't know if you're wearing the gas permeable ones,
Yeah.
so the hard ones.
Oh no, I guess I'm not. I know I'm wearing the soft ones.
Oh, okay. Dude, maybe I have to look into those because
I've heard the hard ones are really, really hard for people with nystagmus, actually.
they
I think I have read
suck.
that.
They
And I've never
suck.
tried them. I've been wearing my soft contacts for like primarily, I'd say like 75, 80% of the time, and then 20% of the time classes, maybe a little less even at night. I take them out every night, but
Do you see better
I,
with the contacts than you do with the glasses?
yeah, for sure I do.
Huh. What are
Yeah,
they called? What kind of lenses are they?
they're just AccuView contacts. And I've been wearing them since I was like 10 or 11, I think. So about 14, 15 years. And yeah, it's just gotten into, yeah, it's just not a non-problem anymore. It
Okay.
was hard. It totally took probably I was kind of transitioning to making them like my everyday thing. It probably took a few months for me for sure when I was younger. And it was a struggle for a little bit to get them in. It took 5, 10 plus minutes to like
Yeah,
get them
I
in.
can relate
But
to that.
but
Yeah,
now it just becomes second nature. It takes 20 seconds at
yeah,
most.
I hear you.
But yeah, no, I definitely do recommend if you're interested contacts because I definitely see better. I think not only is the prescription, I think a little bit better, honestly, but just the fact that I don't know if it's something on my eyes makes the nystagmus better or just the fact that I don't have the glasses on and I can't, there's not fuzziness around my eyes that I just see a lot better and maybe no reflection, no glare or anything.
I'm
Um,
curious in that now because I've worn contacts before, and like I said earlier, they were the glass ones, and
mhm.
those sucked. I hated those. They
I,
just
I've
hurt so
never I've never
much.
tried them. Yeah, I don't want to.
Yeah, I don't recommend it. I, I
So
recommend the LASIK more than those.
yeah, well, so it's interesting. I think you something to highlight was you said you said your LASIK, and is this correct in saying that your LASIK was not your eyesight didn't, it diminished a little bit afterward, but that was not because of nystagmus. That was because you just had a very strong prescription before.
I think it is because of the prescription. Yeah,
Interesting. Yeah.
and which I think that has more to do with my astigmatism because
Yeah.
I have a lot of astigmatism, so I think it has more to do
Yeah.
with that than it has to do with the nystagmus.
There. Okay. Interesting.
So yeah. Okay, well there's the LASIK. Do you have any other questions or like
You
closing?
know, I don't think so.
Okay.
This is super cool. I hope to. I'm excited to see more of these episodes and maybe engage with the community a little bit more. But
All right,
otherwise, we should definitely keep in touch, Frankie. And
Brandon.
yeah,
It has
thanks for having me
been
on.
it's been a pleasure, man.
Yeah,
This was a very fun episode for me.
cool. Thanks for listening, everyone.
All right, I guess I'll just end it here. Let's see. Where's the button?